today we are going to be talking about English, Vietnam, and why teachers are being fired out here. Now, Vietnam has changed their mandate of having English as part of the high school graduation to just being non-existent. And what this is doing is leading teachers to having a very difficult time getting jobs out here. So today we're going to talk about how to find these jobs, but we're also going to talk about things that teachers are doing that's getting them fired or having them released and not considered to be kept when they have to reduce their teachers. And some things that you should avoid when you are quitting a job, or if you do get fired, some things you should be aware of. And this does include blacklisting. So with that being said, let's get into the first part of getting a job in Vietnam. Now this section is pretty suitable for pretty much anywhere in Southeast Asia. The process is typically the same. You go through an interview, you do a demo lesson of some sort, and they give you a contract, you sign it, you start teaching. But in the past, we've all kind of been accustomed to just walking into a school saying, hey, I need a job, and they offer us a salary, we start the next day. This is starting to become a rarity. And with the surplus of new teachers trying to find jobs, it's making it harder for us to actually find work, and it's making it very easy for schools to have a large pool of teachers to select from. So this means that we have to come into these jobs pretty much overqualified, and we have to have the personality of a movie star at this point, giving the school the assumption that the day they hire you is the day that you can actually start working and making the money. Schools no longer really traditionally train anybody anymore. Even the larger English centers now expect you to know how to teach, and when they hire you, they want you in that classroom the next day. So you have to be ready for this. You have to dress to impress, and you need to know what to do. So when you set up your paperwork, your CV needs to be focused, pinpointed on the school and how you are going to make the money, and how everything on that CV is focused on how you can help the children learn and do good for the school. Nobody cares what you did back home. If it's not relative to actually being a teacher or teaching people, it shouldn't be on your CV no more. Everything on that CV needs to be relative to teaching. And if you don't know how to write the CV, if you're having trouble with it, hit the join button below. Join the Endless Travel team and give you feedback on what actually works and what will get you a job. When Vietnamese, Thai people go over CVs, they look at it for a few seconds, they look at your picture, they read like the first couple lines, and then they put it aside. If they don't call you within a few minutes of looking at your CV, they're never gonna call you. So hit the join button below. Any level will get you this benefit, and you'll get early content. So once you have your CV done, you need to get a cover letter. Your cover letter needs to be short and sweet and just straight to the point. It needs to focus on how you can teach kids. So if you're going to an English center that pretty much does primary school, focus your cover letter on primary students. Let them know you know how to teach. You're ready to teach now, all the experience you have, and how you can benefit this school. If your CV does not convey that, that's not good for you. And also, just a little hack. The top part's going to be your cover letter. It needs to be short and sweet. I would say a couple of paragraphs. But under that, put it in their native language. But don't throw it in Google Translate and just translate it and throw it in the document. And make sure the translation conveys the message of your English part. So now that you know how to get your foot in the door and get a job, let's talk about how teachers are getting fired out here. Now, back in the day, getting fired was like mission impossible. Like, I'm talking, you could show up to work half drunk, hungover, smelling like an ashtray, whatever you wanted. And schools just kind of accept it. They're like, whatever. As long as he's in that classroom, I really don't care. This type of behavior will no longer fly. So let's talk about some of the main reasons a lot of teachers get canned out here. The first one, being drunk in class or extremely hungover. If you're going to class, you're just kind of like on the table, like, what are we doing here? Hey guys, so this one time, like if you're going in there with that, you're going to get in trouble. Now, I'm going to give you kind of a heads up on this. When you go into these classrooms, the students know that you're drunk. You know, if they go home to their house and they're like, why did my teacher smell like daddy? It could be weeks or months down the road at a teacher meeting conference. I've seen a lot of teachers actually get fired weeks, days later after they've come to work drunk. And they were bragging like, yeah, man, I went to class drunk, but you know, I got through it. I did a bunch of mint breaths, brushed my teeth 8 times, and put a penny under my tongue. All this is stupid shit. But the kids told their parents. So don't go to school drunk. If you are drunk, if you are hungover, just call in sick. Tell them you got food poisoning. Tell them you got ammonia. Tell them you got freaking COVID. Who cares? It's better to lose a day's salary than lose an entire job. If you don't feel good because of alcohol or any other kind of drug, just call out. Tell them you got food poisoning. Now, the next one are lesson plans and activities. If you're going into a classroom with no lesson plan, you're just in there, you don't know what to do, you're just kind of winging it for say, and you have no activities on top of that to keep the class fun, this is going to put you in a very bad position. You don't want to be known as a born teacher. Born teachers don't make money for schools. You want to have a lesson plan. If you don't know how to create lesson plans or they take too long, check my ebooks. I've written books on how to write lesson plans. I've written an ebook on how to automate lesson plans. So it'll walk you through the process, the 3-step process I do for lesson plans, so you can write any lesson plan in like minutes. And also check out the activity books. These are different activities that require nothing. You can set them up in any classroom. I have written them and customized them. So even if you work in Cambodia in a farm town that has nothing but 2 chairs and a garbage can lid, you can still run most of these activities. But you have to know how to write a decent lesson plan. It doesn't have to be perfect, but it has to be decent, and you have to have activities. Going into a classroom boring is probably one of the biggest reasons, next to go to class drunk, they get teachers fired. Now this last one is kind of weird. This is something that people tend to do that puts the school and the teacher in a very awkward position. If you guys have ever been out here in Asia, you guys all know that education is pretty much pay to win. Most of the tests, the finals, a lot of the exams, they're all cheated. They're live, the staff is giving them answers, they're copying each other. When you start seeing this, you're either gonna, 1, ignore it, or 2, you're gonna get really frustrated by this. And one thing that I've seen that has got a lot of people in trouble is fighting the education system in regards to cheating. Understand that when students don't pass a class, it looks bad for the school. And the school has to save face to the point to where they will openly lie to parents about grades. They will promote students to the next level, even though they have learned completely nothing. I've seen kids that have been in English centers for 3-4 years that literally have a vocabulary of like 20 words, and they can't even say those words correctly. If you are at a school that's openly cheating, which is pretty common, you're gonna have to kind of get used to it. I've been telling you guys this for years, man. Education in Asia is really pay to win. Grades are fake. The schools don't give low marks and all this and that. If you are in a school where fake grades are an issue to the point where it makes you aggravated and disruptive towards the staff, I strongly suggest 1, getting over it, or 2, just finding a new job that keeps it a little more secret. This is just part of Southeast Asia's education. You are not going to change something that's within the culture. They will rather fire you than hear you complain about this. And I know a lot of you guys are going to be like, well, why don't you just be a better teacher, stupid? And I get you. Like, I had the same feeling. That's why I opened 2 separate English schools when I was in Vietnam. Through the process, getting them open, I started to learn real fast that if you don't give fake grades, like I didn't give fake grades. I ended up closing or selling one school. The other school is now an online school. But I realized real fast, you can't get over this like cultural thing of testing. I mean, I had classes that had 35, 40-year-olds in them. I had classes that had primary and secondary students in them. They cheated during tests. The first thing they did was they tried to copy somebody. And when you tell them no, they look at you so confused. Like, why is this guy stopping me from cheating? Like, this is how we take tests out here. And I hate to say this because it really makes things out here sound bad, but it's just a reality. It's something that a lot of people don't realize right away. Granted, you'll have international schools and some universities, and international schools definitely don't do it like this. But when it comes to general public schools and English centers, you're going to deal with this all the time. And the very last one I want to talk about, because this has come up a lot, are these countries racist? Like, if you're white, if you're black, if you're Filipino, like, are you not going to be able to get a job because of that skin color? And in general, Vietnam is not racist. They don't have a history with like places like Africa. The thing with it though is when a lot of these parents think about English, they think about France. Like, Vietnam has a history with France, America, these other countries with white people. When the parents see that the teacher in their class that they're paying for is a Filipino, is a black person, that sometimes the parents will be like, hey, I want a different teacher. I know a lot of people get uneasy about this. Vietnam isn't racist like that. They just have no history with it. If you look at like Passport Bro videos where you'll see like white guys, black dudes, Filipinos and stuff like that traveling around Asia finding wives, nobody's hating. It's about perception out here. I knew 2 Vietnamese Americans in Saigon that had a hard time finding jobs, and the one girl, she did find a job, and she ended up getting fired because all her students got removed from her class and put in different classes because she looked like a Vietnamese teacher, and the parents were paying money for an English teacher, even though they were born in California. So, is Vietnam racist? I want to say the schools aren't, the parents just have a misconception. Is there racism in Asia? Yeah, of course. There's racism everywhere in the world. But when it comes to teaching English, my best advice is build a solid CV that sells you, makes you sound like the best possible teacher. So when you write your cover letter, make it gold. Again, your CV, your cover sheet, and a killer personality during your demo lesson will get you a job over pretty much anybody, regardless of race. And then the other part of it is the native native teacher versus the non-native. Do you have a better chance of getting a job compared to a non-native? Typically in like bigger cities like Bangkok, Phuket, Ho Chi Minh City, Hanoi, Phnom Penh, stuff like that, it's typically native English speakers. Mostly Filipinos and non-natives, for example, North African teachers, you'll typically find them in the outskirts of Vietnam. And the reason for that is a lot of these areas, they don't make a lot of money. Like a lot of schools are like Northeast, like if you go to like Sapa to be a teacher, you go to Dalat to be a teacher, a lot of these schools can't afford to pay you like $1,500 a month or $2,000 a month. So they're gonna have to hire a non-native teacher because they know they can pay them almost half for the same results. You have chances at both sides, but in general, I think the rule is major cities, native teachers, non-major cities, non-native teachers. All right, so we've covered how to get a job, why people get fired. Let's talk about what happens after you get fired or if you quit a job, some things that you should be aware of, and then also blacklisting. Now, when it comes to ending your contract or quitting your job, it typically happens two different ways, and it doesn't really matter if you quit or they fired you or your contract is over. It comes down to, did you leave on good terms or bad terms? So if you have a 12-month contract, your 12 months is over, it's your last day, and you leave and everybody hates you, that's pretty much leaving on bad terms. This is also the same if you get fired in like a negative way. Like if you're always coming to work drunk, or if you're harassing people, or you're always starting fights at work, stuff like that. That's also something you want to try to avoid. Now, if you get fired because the school closed the program or they're reducing teachers and they're being really nice, like, hey, we're so sorry, man, like we can't afford you anymore. This is gonna happen, but that is the difference between being fired or removed or quitting on good terms versus the bad terms. Anytime you get removed on bad terms, it can lead to a lot of serious problems. And something that a lot of people aren't aware of, this is something I learned when I was working in Vung Tau. I was teaching the local teachers how to teach like a Western person. And one of the girls was showing me that there's a Zalo group that's for all of Vietnam, and there's a WhatsApp group for all of Vietnam, and it's broken into a lot of like groups, and it's pretty much where Vietnamese talk about Western people in regards to like dating, in regards to being that they're teachers, like people you shouldn't hire, and they'll sit there and share all your personal information, your face, your CV, everything. They'll be like, don't hire this David guy, like he's so bad at teaching, or he's so bad at this, or I dated this guy David and he always took my money, and don't date him, he's a bad guy, like this type of stuff actually happens in Vietnam, and it happens a lot. And you don't want to quit a job on bad terms and end up on these groups because it will haunt you. So you want to leave on good terms as best you can. Even if you hate this school, bring them flowers. Like if you're leaving and you know there's tension, bring them flowers, buy them lunch, bring them 20 pizzas from Domino's. Be like, I'm going to miss you guys. It's good. Give them that moment. I mean, think of it as like their children. You want your final moments of this job to be fun. So they want you to return again. You want them to bring you back, or at least have that mindset. You don't want them to like remove you or you quit. And they're like, oh, I'm so glad that David's gone. Now, if you don't, what this could do is this could lead you to a position where you get blacklisted. Now, this depends on the school that you're dealing with. Some schools can blacklist you quite easy. Some of them it's quite challenging. And what the idea is that they do is they will contact the Department of Immigration and Education, and they will let them know, like, hey, we have this teacher guy, we just terminated him because he punched one of our teachers. Typically it's a lie. So when you leave a job, you have to be in a good, you have to, whatever it takes, leave in a good position. Even if you're leaving soon, give them a 30-day notice and just smile. Now, what do you do if you do get blacklisted? Sometimes people don't know they're blacklisted. Like if you leave your job and it was an ugly detachment, just assume the worst, right? So how do you get out of it? One, again, you call an agent, they can make some phone calls and get you through there. Two, just go to the airport. Go to the border. I recommend the airport over a land border. What's going to happen is they're going to pull your passport, typical, get in there, get a stamp, and they're going to pull you aside. They're going to let you know, hey, you were blacklisted on this day, blah, blah. You can either A, call somebody, get a new plane ticket out of there, or two, you can pay the immigration officer to delete this record so you can go back in there. Now, the money you're paying is pretty much going to the immigration office as a bribe. This isn't some kind of fee that the government gets typically. There are, I believe, a fee amount that the government officials have to give the government. So it is negotiable, but if you're not sure about this, make sure you have cash on hand, or at least a Visa card to go to an ATM or something like that. It's hard to tell if you are blacklisted. Now, if you're flying into Vietnam to get a job and they give you a business visa, that will flag for being blacklisted because that actually is the old visa style standard that goes to the normal immigration. So there you have it. In short, don't be a dick. Make yourself valuable to the school. Your CV should be selling you as an ideal tool to help them make money. Your cover letter should be in English language, tell them why you are the best fit and you're ready to teach right now. But also right under it, have it in their local language and make sure somebody helps you verify that the local language translation makes sense. And most of all, make sure you understand the contracts you're signing out here. A lot of these contracts have a lot of weird clauses, such as like they keep half your first salary. There's an NDA clause where a lot of schools will be like, you can't talk about it. I've actually seen that a lot in English centers where they will put a 12-month clause saying you can't talk bad about us on social media. So make sure you understand the contract that you're signing. And if you are going to break any of these contracts, give them a 30 to 60 day warning. And in those final 30 to 60 days, build positive relationships with everybody. Start bringing freaking flowers and pizzas, whatever you got to do. But make sure when you leave, they're sad. That is the best thing you can do. And most of all, don't go to school drunk. I don't understand why in 2024 people still do that. Call out sick. It is better to be late for a day, have a Vietnamese staff get angry at you because they couldn't find a teacher in time than to actually get fired because you're drunk at school. And if you have any other questions, you want me to look at your CV, if you want help with other people that are traveling out here in Vietnam, check out the eBooks below or even join Endless Travel with the little join button below and get personal help from me. And with that being said, guys, I'm going to get out of here. So till then, I will see you again.
Does it look like this?
This way.